Today I'm going to show you how to make these cute felt dirigible plum radish earrings inspired by the ones Luna Lovegood wears in the Harry Potter books. This video is part of a Harry Potter jewelry collab with NerdECrafter, one of my favorite crafty YouTube channels. For her part of the collab, Jackie will be making an adorable miniature wand necklace, so be sure to check out her video to learn how to make one. While you're there, you should definitely subscribe because her craft tutorials are really great. Luna is one of my absolute favorite Harry Potter characters, so I was so excited to work on my own version of her earrings for this collab. Here's how you can make a pair for yourself. To start, download the pattern PDF, which you can find in the video description, and print it out. It's kind of tiny, so put aside the extra paper for another project and cut out the pieces. Using these templates, cut out 4 of the radish shapes in red felt and 1 of each of the other shapes in green felt. When you're done, this is what your felt shapes should look like. Thread a needle with red thread and tie a big knot at the end, then place 2 of the radish shapes together. We're going to sew up one side starting at the bottom and ending at the top. Start your needle on the inside so your knot will be hidden and use tiny whip stitches all along the edge. If you are unfamiliar with any of the stitches I use in this tutorial, check the video description for links to some hand sewing tutorials. When you reach the top, you can open the pieces up and line up the 3rd radish piece along the next open edge like this. Then we'll continue sewing starting at the top and ending at the bottom. Once you've sewed this next side, your piece should look like this. Then we'll add the last radish piece, lining up the edges of that with our 2 remaining open edges of the other pieces like this. Sew from the bottom of one side up to the top point. It can be a little difficult to work with a piece this small, but just take your time and be careful to make your stitches uniform and close together like this. Once you reach the top again, we'll want to close up the hole at the top of the radish by making a few extra stitches, pulling the corners at the top together. Next, continue our whip stitch down the remaining open edge, but stop halfway so we can stuff the radish with some polyester fiberfill. Using a chopstick or wooden skewer, open up the inside of the piece so it looks less like a star fruit and more like a radish. Using tiny pieces of polyfill, carefully stuff the radish with your finger or the chopstick. This can be a little bit tricky because it's so small, but you can do it. Once you're happy with it, squeeze the edges closed again and continue whip stitching. It's also a little easier to add a bit more stuffing at this point, so feel free to do that if you'd like. Keep sewing until you've reached the point at the bottom and then close up the hole by stitching the corners together like we did earlier with the top of the radish. Tie a double knot using a nearby stitch as an anchor like this, then hide the excess thread by pushing the needle into the tiny plush near your knot and out the other side. Trim off that extra bit of thread and you should have a tiny radish-shaped plush like this. Roll it between your fingers if you'd like to make it a little rounder. Now we're going to add some detail. Cut a length of white embroidery floss and thread it onto an embroidery needle. Then push your needle into the top of the radish and out through the bottom point. Gently pull the embroidery floss through the radish, but stop when you have about an inch left sticking out at the top. Then we're basically going to draw a bunch of white lines connecting at the point at the bottom of the radish like this. Keep turning the piece and filling in this bottom portion of the radish until you're happy with the way it looks. It doesn't have to be perfect. I wanted mine to look handmade and organic. Eventually, your piece should look something like this. To finish this up, we're going to add a braid that looks sort of like the root at the bottom of a radish. To do this, we're going to create 3 loose strands of floss, all starting at the bottom point of the radish. I made the first one by grabbing a stitch at the point and pulling the floss all the way through. Then I put my needle through a few stitches at the bottom, but this time I stopped pulling when I had a loop a few inches long like this. Then I cut open the loop and trimmed the 3rd strand to match. I also trimmed off the piece of floss sticking out of the top since that's all secure now. Use a clipboard to secure the radish while you tightly braid the 3 strands of floss at the bottom, then tie a knot in the braid, pulling it tight where you want the root to end. Mine's about ½ an inch. Trim off the extra floss below the knot and your radish is ready for some leaves. To add some detail to the leaves, I split a length of 6-strand green embroidery floss into 2 3-strand pieces. Then I added a decorative blanket stitch around the edge of this shape. This adds a nice touch to the leaves and looks nicer than just leaving the felt edges raw. Check the video description for a blanket stitch tutorial if you need one. When I started, I left the end of the floss open, and once I stitched back around to the beginning, I tied a double knot using the 2 ends of the floss, one where I started and one where I finished the blanket stitch, and then I trimmed off the excess. This is what the leaves look like now. Next, I grabbed the skinny green rectangle and another 3-strand piece of the green embroidery floss, tied a knot at the end, and sewed a line of backstitch right down the middle to make it stronger and add a little bit of detail. Finish that off with a knot on the back and trim the excess floss. Now that all of the pieces are finished, all that's left is to attach them together and add an earring wire and a jump ring. Using 2 pairs of pliers, twist a jump ring to open it and then attach it to the center of the thin green rectangle. Then put the loop at the bottom of your earring wire onto the jump ring and close it tightly shut by twisting the jump ring back in place with your pliers. Next, wrap the felt rectangle around the center of your felt leaves so the jump ring and ear wire are at the top of the loop, and place that on top of the plush radish. If you want to, hold that down using a sewing pin, but be careful of where the pin pokes out on the other side of the radish. Make sure that you like where the leaves are attached and that the earring wire is facing the right direction, then thread some green thread onto a sewing needle and tie a knot at the end. Carefully sew the leaves and the rectangle loop to the radish, hiding the knot under the loop. There isn't really a specific trick or stitch for this part, but keep going around, grabbing a bit of the leaves and a bit of the radish until all of the pieces are attached securely. If you feel like one section isn't tight enough, you can push the needle through the piece to reach that other side and add a few more stitches. I also decided to add 1 stitch to attach each of the centers of the leaves to the radish so they lay a bit flatter by pushing the needle through the radish like this. Then I poked the needle back out on the back and tied a knot onto one of the stitches there to keep it from coming loose. To hide the excess thread, I pushed the needle into the piece near the knot I just made and back out on the other side of the radish, then I trimmed the thread close to the finished piece. Repeat all of these steps to make the other earring, and once that's done, you'll have a unique handmade pair of radish earrings just like the ones Luna Lovegood wears in the Harry Potter books. I love tiny projects like these because you can make them using leftover scraps of fabric and they're super cute. These earrings would be perfect for a Luna Lovegood costume, but I like to wear them with any regular outfit so that when I go out, maybe another Harry Potter fan might get the reference and say hello. They're also super lightweight so they don't hurt your ears, and you can even make them with a set of clip-on earrings in case you don't have your ears pierced. If you end up making a pair for yourself, I would love to see how they came out. Definitely send me a picture of them on Twitter at Lauren Myrtle. And don't forget to watch NerdECrafter's half of the collab. Click right here to watch her video or read the video description for a link. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon!